Are you looking for hot takes and guests yelling over top of each other? Well, you came to the wrong place. This is the final word, where we talk about sports like they used to. All opinions are welcome, but that doesn't mean you are right. Hosted by Greg Rector. Welcome in.
Good evening, everybody. This is Greg Rector, otherwise known as Greg Cowboys on X and Blue Sky and all that fun sort of stuff. And joining with me is Mr. Jeff Barnes. Good evening, Mr. Jeff. How are you doing?
Fine, you, Greg?
I'm doing well. This has been a bad week for big names passing away. Malcolm Jamal Warner, Ozzy Osbourne, and today the man we're going to discuss, Terry Bollea, otherwise known as Hulk Hogan.
Absolutely.
18 days away from turning 72.
Yeah.
This didn't surprise me, but I guess according to what I see on X and Blue Sky and all the other stuff today, quite a few people have, expressed their big shocks and all that other jazz. I'm old enough to remember the territories, so I remember Terry Bollea first hitting a territory down in Alabama, because in Florida, where he first learned how to wrestle, you didn't get to debut in Florida, right? You wherever you were being trained at, you got sent off on the road and all that fun sort of stuff. And Hiro Matsuda had been the guy who had trained Terry Bollea. He broke his leg, and Bollea still came back for some more.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and give me your first thought about Terry Bollea today.
It's mixed feelings, and you're seeing it all over the internet. A lot of tributes, a lot of detractors. People have a hard time reconciling there are two different people. Okay, Terry Bollea was the person.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan was the character that he portrayed.
Right. Yep.
And we got to know Hulk Hogan before we got to know Terry Bollea.
Yeah.
And, as somebody who grew up a Hulkamaniac, you couldn't tell me anything about wrestling and not be Hulk Hogan in the 1980s. And I watched it all. I remember the territories. My family used to watch at Georgia wrestling and down to Virginia. I didn't see the Road Warriors until I went to Virginia. You didn't get them up here at first. We didn't start seeing Southern wrestling up here until the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s. So it was WWE that started to bring all those territorial big names to the mainstream.
Yeah.
And it was because they were able to ride the gimmick of a Hulk Hogan. And, one of the things I love you're going to see a lot of are the Iron Sheik, F Hulk Hogan then, F Hulk Hogan now, F Hulk Hogan.
What you talking about? F Hogan.
Yes.
Hogan, bad man.
Yes. And, there are a lot of people because you hear all the stuff, and we're going to touch on all the different things about Terry, Hulk Hogan, Bollea. But a lot of that gets grabbed onto like people were part of it. The one good thing about growing up in that time period where you were coming up, the time period where I was coming up, was we didn't have a lot of access to these guys backstage.
No, it was called kayfabe.
Yes.
The wrestlers who were good guys stayed together. The bad guys stayed in a separate room. They didn't go out to the same places. They weren't allowed to, and all that other fun sort of stuff, unlike today.
Yes. And even then, when they were on the road together, they may have rode in a car together, but it was kept quiet.
That's right.
So the only time you got to sniff anything backstage was Pro Wrestling Illustrated and all the magazines that wrote about all this stuff, pro wrestling. So we didn't know all the things we know now. And for the most part, he was deemed a good guy because of the Hulk Hogan persona. And you didn't start hearing about the misdeeds until we started getting more access to Terry Bollea.
Yeah.
And, you start getting more and more of these shows where people were actually interested in talking to former wrestlers who had grudges against Terry Bollea. So
the shoot interview.
Yes, so now that's the big thing. Now everybody does a shoot interview. There's a former wrestler, right? That's their new thing now. Forget going around and signing autographs. I'll get more exposure doing shoot interviews about people.
Yeah.
One of your favorite Canadians is big on doing that. Bret Hart. Now Bret Hart tells his disgust for everybody.
Well, no. Bret Hart has a lot of love for Stone Cold. He made up with Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of people in the business he has a gripe against, right?
Yeah.
Ric Flair, Hogan, especially.
Yeah.
Because of course, the Terry Bollea that Bret Hart met was a guy who lied to Bret Hart.
Yeah.
He was lied to.
Yeah.
So there you go, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the demons he's had to deal with. There were guys and we've seen it. There are guys he'll work with all day and night. And if he didn't trust you, he didn't want to work with you. And that's what he did to Bret. And he didn't trust Bret, which is funny because he trusted Jacques Rougeau a lot more. And all of those guys were together in the old WWF.
Yeah.
So, we talk about Macho. Him and Macho traveled everywhere forever before they had their falling outs multiple times. We talk about him and Ed Leslie, who came up together, and every time he could drag Ed Leslie somewhere and get Ed Leslie a job, he did it. Now Ed Leslie talks about him, his ex-wife, and his dog, and it's funny when you get old wrestlers. But I'll tell you what really touched me today. Seeing everything that happened, and hearing all the details is. I was glad to see that he and Brooke kind of talked and kind of got past whatever the issue was. While they may not have been close again, they were at least speaking. So,
and she had just had twins a couple of months ago. Nick got married 6-7 months ago now because, of course, Hogan was supposed to be at a Saturday night's main event and no-showed it. Well, it was because his kid Nick was getting married. So, obviously his family was vital to the man.
Especially the kids.
Especially those two kids, right?
Yeah.
And again, to the Bollea family, our deepest condolences, as I have on the banner. But again, I had a little discussion in the Draft Professors room that we're in today regarding Hogan being a great wrestler. Well, the version that we all knew in the WWF and WWE and WCW, TNA, even in TNA, was not a great wrestler. He had a couple of moves. That was it. That was all. Where the man was a great wrestler was in Japan.
Yeah.
He is. I'm sorry to hear that, Sarah. He teamed up with Inoki.
Yes. Antonio Inoki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were pretty damn good as a tag team.
Yes.
You saw
they also had some good matches against each other.
Yes. But you saw Hogan using the Russian leg sweep and things like that, and you're going, what? Where did this come from? What? Who taught him how to do this? Well, Hiro Matsuda did teach him how to wrestle.
He was a good chain wrestler. People never gave him credit for it. As much as we talk about Bret being the excellence of execution, the man was a very good chain wrestler. And you saw it in all his matches, even in the 80s Hulkamania matches. It started with the chain wrestling, and it devolved into a brawl. And then after that, he had to let somebody carry the match for a while so he could Hulk up and come back in the end. Japan was a totally different thing. And he was more heel in Japan than he was face for most of the time he was there. Yeah. And you didn't see the leg drop as the finisher in Japan. It was the lariat, was it?
Yeah,
it was the elbow.
He used the elbow and the lariat.
Yeah.
So he would clothesline a guy or use the elbow on him.
Yeah.
But again, like you saw a side Russian leg sweep from the guy, and you're going, what? Those sort of things.
Drop toe holds.
The old-fashioned wrestling. Oh, I'm sorry. This is old stuff, kids. It's not the high flyer nonsense that we see today.
And you don't see too many 6'7" high flyers today, anyway. So
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's like I said, there are going to be fond memories of the man, and then there are going to be the dark memories that people have where there's still a lot of grudges that are held. And we talk about, the stuff with Brett. We talk about the comments that were made on video, and I have my own feelings on that. And there are people that'll feel a certain way about it. There are people that won't. As a huge fan of Hogan's, when I heard the comments, I was disappointed, but I didn't hate the man. And part of that is because, I already told you the story, but my brother married outside of our race.
Yeah.
When he first brought his girlfriend home, who's now, the first one, not even the one he married, but my father was very upset.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking years later why, how, seeing him, my sister-in-law now and the grandkids, before he died, my father died. It'll be 5 years this year. I think, it's 6 years this year, this fall. But seeing him with them after that, you were like, well, this is the guy who said all this stuff when he first met my brother's girlfriend. But, you realize that I'm born in 1976. My parents, my father, 42.
That's right.
Born. My mother, 46, the year she was born.
Different timelines.
Yeah. They grew up in Jim Crow. I didn't grow up in Jim Crow. I was still attacked for the color of my skin in my lifetime more than once. Called the N-word to my face more than once.
Yep.
Just for being in the wrong neighborhood. But I didn't experience Jim Crow.
No.
They did.
Exactly.
And if you think about it, go back 71 years, so did he.
Bingo.
All right. So when you grow up in that society, that's going to be the hardest society to adapt to newer things.
Oh, it still is today. We see it today, still in parts of the South, especially. We're living in Florida. Where was Terry Bollea from? Oh yeah, Florida.
Right down here in Tampa, Florida. Yes.
That's right. It's still, and of course you can't teach 1619 or anything like that. No, because the truth is going to hurt people, right? Like I wrote about that and I said, wait a second. I realized my U.S. relatives own slaves. Did that damage me to understand that my ancient relatives own slaves? No. Right?
No.
It boggles my mind how people think about that particular topic. But again, when he wrote the N-word and he said everything he said on tape.
Well, he didn't write it. He spray painted NWO, but that's always used. When people want to use the N-word reference, they use that picture of him spray painting NWO. Spray painting NWO. Because I trust me, I see that all the time, and I laugh because I remember when it happened live, and it wasn't the N-word, it was NWO. He was spray painting on the trailer. Yeah. But but because he said it, everything goes to that. Things take on a life of their own in the internet age, and that picture has taken on a life of its own from what actually happened. So you don't ever see a community notes under that picture. It's just thrown out there.
That's right.
In the context that people want to use it. But I know RG3, offered his condolences, and you see people clowning him for doing that, giving him the Stephen from Django Unchained reference, and there are people that feel it. Once again, he said it. He didn't fully contritely apologize for it. When he told, the way he said it to the guys backstage was more like, just don't get caught saying it. It didn't really wash anything over with those guys. It didn't make them feel like he was really sorry. So he didn't exactly win over anybody with that. And those guys talk. So guess what? Everybody else still believes that's who you are. So that's part of the reason why that's taken on its whole thing. I mean, was he a nice guy? He might have been for the most part. I never got to meet Hogan and get to know Hogan. Anytime I was in the same area he was, we were in two separate places, so we never really crossed each other's path. My mother met Hogan of all places in Aruba. But I never met Hulk Hogan in person. I've been in his shop. I have plenty of memorabilia from Hulk Hogan, whether it's shirts. I have 3 championship belts, all ones that he wore.
Yep.
Whether it's the 86 belt, which is my favorite of all time. I love the 86 title belt. It's my favorite belt of all time. Of all the Reggie Parks belts, that's my favorite one. I have the Winged Eagle, which was, of course, the one that he is one of the ones he's famous for wearing. And, of course, I have the big gold with the NWO spray painted on it.
But, you mean this?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I was a huge fan of his growing up. I was an even bigger fan when he flipped to the NWO.
See, now for me, I was never, this, I was never into the good guys. Yes. Never liked the good guys. I grew up with Archie the Stomper Goldie out here, beating up on the Heart the Heart Mafia, as he referred to them as, and that's who I loved. And again, yes, I love the Sheik. I love Sheiky. Sheiky was a great guy. And again, he took off at a time when after the Iran hostage crisis, right?
Yes.
So the Sheik being the Iranian badman that he was, and all of a sudden you had this big, powerful American who was going to save the day, right? I didn't like that. No, me like the Sheik.
Unfortunately for the Sheik, though, he was a transitional champion, right?
Well, yeah.
He got the belt off of Backlund because Backlund was hurt. And they needed to get the belt off him. And they wanted to put it on Hogan, and it wouldn't have been right for Hogan to take it from Backlund. Yep. So they had to put it on somebody. And yes, the Iran crisis happened, and it was perfect to bring him to the forefront. But he was only to pass the belt on to the guy that they purposely pried away from AWA to get there. He had just done the stuff with Hogan.
You mean the AWA Hogan? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you notice who's interviewing him, is Mean Gene, who they pulled from the AWA, right?
And they pulled out Bobby Heenan and everybody else. Because the AWA was a huge territory out here.
The Gagnes,
The Gagnes, right? Minnesota, Vegas, San Francisco. They were, that was a huge territory. And Hogan was supposed to become their champion because, of course, they had Nick Bockwinkel running around.
Bockwinkel,
who was a very old guy at this point.
And wouldn't let it go.
And Bockwinkel did exactly what Hogan would do to others later on. No, I'm not going to let go of the belt right now. And then boom. We had Vince McMahon. And that's the story of that, right? I mean, that's the bottom line of all that. That's the business. But that used to happen in the territories, right? You'd be in a territory. You could be there for a year and a half. You'd have to go to a different territory.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
And creative control was nothing new, right? And it wasn't something exclusive to Hulk Hogan.
No.
And what I hate when people always go, well, that don't work for me, brother. You can say that about a lot of the guys that people champion. Okay? As much as they say that about Hulk Hogan, nobody says that about Roddy Piper, who never let anybody pin him. Right, and one of Bret Hart. If you listen to Bret Hart,
no. Roddy Piper was pinned, and he was pinned by Bret Hart.
Well, I was just about to get into that. Right,
that's right.
Yeah, and when Bret Hart talks about Piper, he even mentions it. Piper never let anybody pin him. When he let me take the title off him, I was honored. You should be honored because he did the same thing that everybody was mad about with Hulk Hogan. Was he was burying him. You can't pin me. You can count out me. You can get me DQ'd. But you cannot pin me.
Yep.
So You talk about it with him. We talked about it with Bockwinkel. Harley Race could be a real bastard when he wanted to be. You know,
that was Harley Race was loved by the powers that be at the NWA.
Yes.
And he decided that he would finally give up that title to Flair.
Yes.
Right? Because he had given it up with Dusty Rhodes, he had given it up to Terry Funk. But again, he was not one to not be without that title. And the NWA title at that time was really the big worldwide title. Because you had to go to every territory there was, and you do a 30-minute or a 60-minute Broadway match, and that was it, right? That was your life.
Yeah.
You know. But again, the whole thing with Hogan was he looked out for himself. Bottom line.
Well, he looked out for himself because he protected his gimmick like a lot of people did. And it could be cutthroat about it because if he didn't trust you, he didn't want to work with you. But there's a lot of people he did put over. And people forget that. You know, this is a guy who made a lot of money bringing in outsiders, whether it was Mr. T, whether it was George Foreman, whether it was Shaq, whether it was the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. You know, we could talk about all the guys, you know, and it's paved the way for all these other guys now that are in the business that came from outside of wrestling. You know, because at one point it was football players.
Wrestling was a very closed shop, kids.
Yes.
It was very, very hard to even get into the business.
You know, so
and that's why Terry Bollea went to Hiro Matsuda to get trained, get your leg broken, and all that other jazz. And that's where he got his foot in the door because superstar Billy Graham, who basically, I don't care what anybody says, Hogan stole superstar Billy Graham.
Oh, yeah. Well, him and Ventura.
Well, Ventura was also the guy who also stole from superstar Billy Graham. Because Billy Graham was the first big guy out there with the blonde hair and all that other jazz, right? But again, for all those of us old enough to remember the territory days, this is such a different world now, right? Like I don't like knowing that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins are married. I don't like knowing this. I don't care.
Once they let you behind the curtain, you couldn't unring the bell.
But Terry Bollea was responsible for that because of his involvement in the steroid scandal.
Yeah.
That is where Vince said, "Oh no, we're just entertainment." And this is where we got this lovely mess now.
Well, the other part of that was people had gotten wind of wrestling being predetermined. So the wrestling is fake movement started. And they kind of had to also pivot into sports entertainment because of that.
Well, David Schultz slapping Josh Stossel didn't help us.
But that was just the beginning of it. Right? You think about later on when the steroid scandal happened, when the scandals of guys getting arrested on the road, whether it was Duggan and Sheik getting caught together on the road smoking weed, right?
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff started coming out. Dino Bravo, the stuff that happened with him, you know, all that stuff started coming out that was behind the scenes.
Yep.
And it was like, well, why are these guys, if they hate each other so much? And then you started doing more of the extreme stuff with the chairs and everything else. And it's like, this is a little too much, and he's going to come back from getting hit in the head with 3 times with a chair. And you're going to tell me this is real? You know, and people started realizing, yes, we can't bill it as just pro wrestling anymore. It's not about grappling.
Chair shots used to actually be chair shots. You used to get hit in the head with that chair, and then all of a sudden, because of the CTE whole situation that happened, we better only hit people in the back with the fingers. But I mean, I witnessed guys.
Well, I remember when Macho got hit in the head, and you sort of sweat fly.
I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
Right. But again, obviously, that's the safety concern, which has been addressed properly. Thank you. But
it was how you hit a guy in the head. You know, you couldn't hit him in the forehead with the chair. You couldn't hit him in the face. You had to hit him on the hardest part, which was the
top of the head. Yeah, you know, and all that fun sort of stuff.
You had to hit him with the seat of the chair. You couldn't hit him with the top. Yeah.
which version of Hulk Hogan did you like the best? Was it the real American? Was it the NWO? Was this later time at TNA? What period of time did you like Hulk Hogan the best?
Oh man, that's hard for me. Because I was such a huge Hulkamaniac growing up, and I was one of those fans that when everybody started booing him in the early '90s, that still was like, I was mad with him. I was like, yo, why y'all booing him? Why? Oh, y'all are mad? So when he turned to the NWO, I was happy when he went Hollywood, you know, and I embraced the NWO so quickly because of that, you know, because it was like, good, I'm with you. Yes, all of them that booed him could stick it. I was with them, you know. My brother hated Hulkamania, loved Hollywood Hogan, because he was like you. He hated the faces. He was a heel guy. Right. So,
yeah. My favorite version of Bret Hart is the one that's most loved up here in Canada.
Yeah, when he was pro Canada. Yeah,
but despised down there in the U.S. Right. Yeah. I mean, the anti-hero.
That was the best version of Bret Hart. You know, because the face Bret Hart was okay. It was just too good, but he was best as a Canadian heel. Even when he was with the Hart Foundation, they were great as heels. When they went, that huge rivalry he had with the British Bulldogs was huge.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but if there's anything near and dear to me, although I was a huge Hulkamaniac, I got to say Hollywood, and it became part of my identity. You know, at that point I was still playing ball, I was still playing corner, and like most corners, we wore do-rags to try to protect what little hairline we had left, right? So when he went Hollywood, I had the Hollywood do-rag to the point where my teammates started calling me Hollywood, you know, and that became my nickname.
You little wimp.
Yeah, so when you saw him under my helmet, you saw my face mask, you saw the helmet, and underneath you could see the Hollywood bandana. And when I left,
see, there's a good toque on the Iron Sheik. Iron Sheik with toque.
So when I left there, and I was actually with Rockland, I had my personal bandanas made with my number, and it said Hollywood going across. Well, so I had in team colors a bandana that had Hollywood in 29 on top. So people knew Hollywood Jeff Barnes was there. And not to be confused with Hollywood Henderson, or, you know.
I was going to say, Mr. Henderson would have beaten the crap out of you, Jeff, and you wouldn't have been liking that moment, because Hollywood Henderson was not a nice guy either. No, I mean, come on.
But well, listen, I didn't, as much as I love the Cowboys, I tell you what, Hollywood Henderson was a little too extreme for me, and that was not the Hollywood I wanted to be associated with, because most of the things he's known for are not good.
When I first went down to Dallas for the Thanksgiving Day game with my Aunt Martha there, and I met the Cowboys that first day, Hollywood Henderson was one guy I just did not want to meet. No way. Ed Too Tall Jones, Randy White, Drew Pearson, I'm fine. Hollywood Henderson, stay away. Stay away. He was a frightening man. I think I might have felt the same way about meeting Charles Haley later on as well, but you know.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to jump back off of football. I'm back on the wrestling in a bit.
There we go.
But I just, you know, while I may not play anymore, and I don't, nobody calls me Hollywood unless it's an old teammate that sees me after a while. But years ago, my wife gave me this medallion. On the back, it says Hollywood. Yeah. Always number one with me. Yeah. And it's a medallion of my jersey with my number.
There you go.
But so technically Hollywood is always with me. I'll always be Hollywood in somebody's eyes. But to me, that was Hollywood. Hogan was Hollywood. And to me, making it Hollywood Hogan was perfect, because at the time he was still trying to do the acting thing, although most of his movies at that point were just bad.
Every one of his movies was bad, but okay.
Well, yeah. Listen, as bad as you go back and look at it now, you go No Holds Barred. It was a bad movie. It was at least entertaining for the 80s, but it was bad. You know, and Tiny Lister, milked that role for everything he could. But
Yeah. Yeah.
And hell, that movie made Kurt Fuller a big time actor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was some good that came out of that movie, But to me, the best role he ever played was Thunderlips.
Yeah.
Because it was a role that he was comfortable doing, but he sold that.
Oh yeah.
He made you believe he was beating Stones behind in that ring.
Yep.
And the lines were perfect for him. No, not for the meatball. No.
Yep.
Come on, meatball. No. Yep. I may not break your spirit, but I sure enough can break your back. And it was perfect. And you let the line, hook, line, and sinker. His acting in that movie was better than Mr. T's acting. And it was one of the one things you go, this dude's a star.
Mr. T was never. I'm sorry, but Mr. T was just a glorified bodyguard. He was never really an actor. I don't care what he did in the A-Team or his little movies. He was just a bodyguard. That's all the guy was.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he will ever be for me. So there is Hollywood Hogan. He's your guy. Again, by the time the NWO thing came along, the WCW had such a huge roster of former WWF and WWE guys that it was just, oh Lord, here we go, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. The whole NWO thing with their breakups to the Wolf Pack and all that.
That's when it went bad. Yeah.
It went horrible, right?
But the beauty of the NWO, and is what changed wrestling, right? I remember when I was playing with the Bengals, we had one of the local reporters in New York that was covering the team was also a guy that wrote about wrestling. And I'm at his house, and he's helped me put together my football resume for an arena tryout. And we're talking about wrestling because he saw I had the NWO shirt on. He goes, "You're an NWO fan, huh?" He goes, "I think that's the death of pro wrestling." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, everything that pro wrestling that is the actual difference. It's different." And I said, to me, it's going to extend it because people have gotten tired of the traditional pro wrestling. They're tired of the long, crazy promos and the long matches, and they want spontaneity, they want excitement. And the NWO was that, right? The first time you see Scott Hall show up, you knew he signed before that. When are they going to use him? He shows up and he doesn't walk out the back like everybody else. He comes through the crowd and starts tormenting people. And you go, what the hell's going on here? All right? And then he starts talking about another guy. And you knew Kevin Nash had left too.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you see he comes out and he says, "I told you about my friend." And here comes Kevin Nash popping up behind Bischoff and power bombs him through the table. And you go, "Oh my God, they're both here." And you go, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and Diesel. Razor Ramon and Diesel. If you were thinking about the WWE, but if you knew him before that from Scott Hall in his AWA days, you knew him as Scott Hall, where he was a lot bigger than he was Razor when he was on those roids. Kevin Nash, when he was Vinny Vegas in WCW and the NWA, goes to WWE, Diesel comes back with his regular name of Kevin Nash. Yeah. Right. But it was all of that. And then to finally go, who's the third man? They kept teasing Sting. They kept teasing this.
Yeah.
And when Hogan came out, everybody knew he was going to come out there and save Macho Man. Oh, he's going to save Macho. And he comes.
No, he didn't.
And he drops that first leg drop, and you hear the roof come off the place. Like, what just happened? And you could have swore somebody just bombed the place. Like, there were fans that were cheering. There were fans that were in shock.
Oh, absolutely.
Genuine shock. And they didn't know what to make of it. And then he drops the second leg drop. Yeah. And it's like, he really did it. He's the third man. How did they get the Hogan of all people? And like I said, it was the promo afterwards. All these people here represent this stuff that they're throwing in the ring. As far as I'm concerned, you could stick it.
Yeah.
And he was like, and it's like, dude, this is the dude. When he came down here to WCW to save WCW, y'all booed him.
Yep.
You get what you deserve with this. I was a Hulkamaniac, and I was offended when I kept seeing they were booing him. And I said, wow. I said, really? They're doing Hulk like that? And when he did that, I said, good. Yes. The best thing that ever happened. So I was right there when fans were, oh. So I said, and everything that the NWO did after that was anti-pro wrestling, right? Pro wrestling, when we script all the backstage sketches and the scenes. Hey, we're in a match. Oh, we got to stop. Something's going on in the back. And you see people laid out, and you see them going through, beating people up with bats and chairs. And they're like, this is not wrestling. This is not what normally happens. No, it was a totally different thing. And people were sucked in from every minute of it. It changed the game. All of a sudden, DX started doing the same things. Then WWE started cutting the backstage stuff. And then all of a sudden, everybody had to follow suit because it wasn't traditional wrestling more. Fans got wise to the game.
For 83 weeks, WCW was way ahead of the WWE. 83 weeks.
So the only way you could hoodwink fans was to make it look unscripted. And it was the perfect thing. But when you started having the heat inside of it, when Scott Hall had his addictions, and you couldn't keep, he would miss events.
That was
when Nash was like, okay, we've done the Hogan with the belt leading the group. It's about my turn, but Hulk wasn't ready to give up the mantle.
Yeah.
So that whole thing. And then you got all these guys in there that just didn't belong. As much as I loved Bubba Rogers, he had no business being NWO.
No.
As much as I loved what's Kona Crush's name? Adam what? I forget his last name.
Yeah.
He was crushing Demolition.
Yeah.
When he joined the group, didn't fit.
Scott Norton.
Well, Scott Norton was good because he was big in Japan as NWO.
Right? But again,
he was big with the Japan faction in the NWO with Muda and those guys. So that I was fine with. When they brought Bagwell in, I was fine with Buff coming over because that was the best thing that happened to Bagwell was he became Buff Bagwell because nobody bought the good old Marcus Alexander Bagwell. They just didn't buy into it.
No.
Okay. But they bought into Buff. I'm Buff and I'm the stuff. And he's flexing it. People bought into it. Whether you loved him or hated him, you bought into it. You know? So it was just, there were too many members that got put in there. Now, Vincent served the purpose. He was always going to be the stooge. But, the Giant coming in and out. I mean, he was in, he was out. It was great when he first joined, but you want to keep pulling him in and out of the faction didn't work, right?
No.
So, if you
but again, that goes to Eric Bischoff and his stupidity as well.
Yeah.
They ended up having too many factions, the Wolfpack and all this other BS nonsense that they ended up having. So obviously WCW goes away. Hogan comes back with the NWO to WWE. That version I didn't care about because at that point Scott Hall was already totally wasted on the alcohol in the bag. Kevin Nash is physically was done, and so was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan was physically done.
Yeah, none of those guys were the same at that point.
No,
right? Although he had a couple of great matches at that point.
Yeah,
it was more of a last nostalgia run, and I kind of got that. He had some unfinished things. The first match with The Rock was amazing. Yeah, that tore the roof down, and it kind of robbed Triple H of his big comeback because it was just such a great match.
Yeah, yeah.
I rewatched that WrestleMania about 6 months ago. I just happened to go through some of the old Manias. That was one of them. And I watched that whole card. And they had some really good matches on that card.
Yeah.
But that match just took all the energy out of the building because everybody was so invested in that. And by the time that was over, you could tell the fans were just like, wow. Yeah.
My happiest moment of Hogan with the NWO, though, was when Bret put him in the leg
Yes.
lock. That was my happiest moment to see Bret Hart actually defeat Hulk Hogan in the ring, because he should have done so at the WrestleMania that Yokozuna ended up getting the title and all that other jazz. That was my favorite moment of Hulk Hogan as Hollywood Hogan. Was him losing.
One of the things we talked about, and we talked about it with Bret, right?
Yep.
I mean, you always talk, he was always, he wouldn't put anybody over. He put a lot of people over.
Oh yeah.
All right. We just saw a guy have his last match who he put over.
Goldberg.
And he didn't lose the Goldberg dirty. He lost the Goldberg clean.
Clean.
Just like he did to the Warrior. Just like he did to Arn Anderson. Just like he did to Ric Flair. Just like he did for a lot of people.
He would lose clean.
Yeah.
He would do the right thing. And by the right thing, I mean you lose that title when you're told it's your time to go.
Yeah.
Do the right thing. Bottom line. The one time that he didn't do it was with Bret Hart. He did not, and why he didn't trust Bret Hart is beyond me, because Bret Hart was always a guy who put everyone else over him.
He made the promise to Bret, but he wasn't ready to leave, and he knew once he gave that belt up, Vince wasn't going to put it back on, and that's why he did what he did. It was about him being surpassed, because he did it with the Warrior. He was told to give it up to the Warrior, remember?
Oh yeah,
and he gave it up for the Warrior.
Yeah,
and he had to come back and get it because they couldn't keep the Warrior in.
Well, I mean, the Warrior was such an idiot to begin with.
Yeah,
he would come out, burst it out to that ring, and go off the ropes. He'd be blown by the time the match even started. The guy's already got no energy. Huh?
And to be honest with you, Jim Hellwig wasn't a great wrestler, but
no.
But it was an over gimmick.
Yep.
And it was as over as Hogan's gimmick was. And, that was Vince was saying, well, this is the younger Hogan. I'm going to push it that way. And he couldn't carry it. And when he had to get it back, he was like, well, since I got it back, I'm going to hold on to this longer than I had my longest reign. And it never materialized because
I was once at a WWF event, and the Ultimate Warrior landed right on me. Right on me. That man was massive. Holy.
Yes, he was.
Crap.
Yes. There's a lot of people that, as I said, talk bad about Hogan in the business. There's a lot of guys, though, that talk good about him. You'll never hear Steve Borden say a bad thing about him. As much as people love Sting. Yep. Okay. He does not talk ill of the guy that helped get him in the business.
Yep.
And that says something, right? People go, oh, he didn't. He did it. Whether he's running around, I think one of the most heartbreaking moments for me today was seeing Ric Flair in tears. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Jimmy Hart's in tears. Jimmy Hart lives around here.
Jimmy Hart was apparently with Hogan yesterday. Yeah. And he said everything is fine.
Yeah.
He told Ric Flair yesterday on the phone that everything's going well with Hulk Hogan. He's fine. And today, boom, we get the news, right? So Jimmy's got to be heartbroken.
Yeah, I was just in the same wing house as Jimmy Hart a couple months ago. Sitting down eating, and got to talk to him. So, it's you're getting guys at that age. I mean, he made it in 71. So, Rick Rude didn't.
No, Kurt Hennig didn't.
No, there's a lot of guys who
Animal and Hawk were both gone long before they.
Yes, Laurinaitis and
wrestlers do not live a very long time. They just don't.
Not with what they put themselves through now.
No,
especially that era.
Yeah,
especially that era.
Yeah.
But to see him, with all the things we saw, like I said, the stuff with his ex-wife, the stuff with his daughter that's been out there, and I'm just going to talk about the political stuff. Listen, you're going to have your views. I'll be honest with you. Well, I may not agree with him politically. I didn't agree with Clint Eastwood politically, but guess what? Clint Eastwood is one of my favorite actors when it comes to not only acting, but Westerns and a bunch of other things. So I can separate the two.
Bingo.
Right.
I mean, okay, where did we say that he grew up?
In Florida.
In Florida. You see all those Florida men videos and all that other stuff. You see the governors that you guys elect down there.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I didn't elect this one.
No,
I did. No. I didn't. Not the first time or the second time.
But again, and again, because 45 2 asterisk /47. See, I refuse to use that guy's name. He was also around Hogan in the WWF and WWE.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
So you knew that they liked each other and all that other jazz.
Well,
so
he hung around it all, but look at the top of the company for the many years with the McMahons. We know. Look where Linda McMahon is. She's where she always wanted to be in politics. She ran for state senate and for governor in Connecticut plenty of times on a Republican ticket. Right. So this is, people are going to have their political ambitions, their alignment. That's I could separate the person from the art. When you're in that ring, you're putting on a performance for me. Okay. I've known people in that ring who were great people. SD Jones. Like I said, his mother lived in the neighborhood I lived in the Bronx. Saw him plenty of times around the neighborhood. Nicest guy in the world, nice guy in the ring. I've seen some guys who are nice guys in the ring, not so nice in person.
Bingo.
And it is what it is. You can't control it. In that ring, that is their job. That is their craft. When they get outside of it, they are who they are.
Oh, exactly.
And with all the stuff that Terry Bollea did,
I knew Tommy Billington, the Dynamite Kid from being here in Calgary, and I knew that man was a tough SOB, and he didn't like anybody. He did not like anybody. Period. He was a tough little SOB, though, and I'll tell you, in that ring, you saw it. But he took it outside that ring, and what he did to his wife and all that was just horrifying as well. No different than Chris Benoit, who idolized the Dynamite Kid, and then he goes out and he kills his
and does it to the 10th power.
Yeah, to the 10th power, right? I mean, he took it where Tommy didn't go.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that's a nightmare. And people who still admire people like that, they're wrong. Those people are just wrong.
Yeah. Well, Heyman just talked about that on one of his mini shoots. He was talking about Benoit, and somebody in the crowd goes, "My man," and he went off on him. He goes, one person in that house had a choice, and it was Chris Benoit. His wife and kids didn't have a choice.
Nope.
One person had a choice. Don't my man me. And he was right. That's
just sickening. And as much as I don't like Paul Heyman, he was correct on that one.
Yes.
Because Paul Heyman himself has done some many dastardly things.
And he knew Benoit.
Oh, yeah.
And he liked Benoit until until that. It's you can't tell a person from there. That's not everybody's real life persona is in the ring.
No, exactly. It's like when you stepped on a football field or I stepped on a football field, this casual thing that we have going right now, that wasn't happening.
No.
We had war on our heads. You're going to battle. That's what we did.
Absolutely. While I wasn't the hugest trash talker on the field, I had people that could talk you into committing 15 personal fouls after one play. You know, I was never that dude.
No.
It just took a lot of energy for me to run around with receivers all day that I didn't have time to talk. You know, to run out of the huddle to the sideline to line up, run with you for 40 yards, run back to the huddle,
Yep.
then run back out to the hash and get ready to do all that running all over again.
Yeah,
Didn't have the energy to sit there and
I had to be the safety, so I was the guy who was calling all the defensive plays for us in high school as well as running around and all that other fun sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So again, because up in Canada with the 5 DBs, they didn't give the job to the middle linebacker. It was the safety who got that gig.
Yeah.
Oh, great! Boom, boom, boom! Right? It was a lot of fun. But again, I mean that's going to our wrestling time. But again, you and I just having this conversation, having a nice conversation tonight, as we always do. That's how these wrestlers, most of them are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and there's some heat backstage with certain guys. And
yep.
You're not going to like everybody you work with. But for the most part, you get along.
Yeah.
You know, because you're on the road.
I can tell you right now, if I was in a WWE locker group, Seth Rollins would be gone to the hospital every night. He'd be gone. I don't like the guy. I just don't like him. I'm sorry. But I just don't like this guy. Roman Reigns, I got no problem with. You know, CM Punk is a guy that I would hang out with because CM Punk, guess what? He still doesn't use any script. Thank you.
I just, you know, I really haven't posted anything all day about this.
I haven't either, other than the fact that we were going to be on.
And when I knew I was doing this is when I definitely didn't post anything. I was going to have a chance to say what I had to say about it. And while I feel bad for the man's family, I don't, you know, I'm not going to be on here in tears like, you know, when my hero Muhammad Ali died, tears fell from my eyes.
Damn
and
right.
I wasn't even around for the prime Ali. I was around for the tail end of Ali when he was finished.
I mean, I grew up with Ali. I mean, he was always to me the great. But it wasn't just for his boxing that he was the GOAT. It was because he stood up to that government and said, "No, there's no Viet Cong who ever called me the N-word and all this other stuff." And he said, and when he became a Muslim and all that other jazz, and he went to Saddam Hussein and got those people out of that country.
Yeah.
That's why Muhammad Ali is great to me.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Yes, he was a great boxer as well. I don't care what anybody says. If you put a 27-year-old Ali in that ring against a 25-year-old Mike Tyson.
Oh, he beats Mike Tyson easily.
That Tyson character, and Tyson even says, he would dice me up. He would dice me up. You know? So.
Yeah, I seeing the news today, it did hurt seeing that he's gone.
Yeah.
I don't. And people go, well, with all the things he said, I said, I don't feel the way I felt about him as a kid.
Yeah.
Or as a young adult. Because that bothered me. But then like I said, I've witnessed the same thing from close family.
That's right.
Know? So I realize that because you may have friends that are of a different skin color, you may work with people with different color and have great relationships with those people. Sometimes when that hits in your house, it's a different story. And especially when, like I said, when you came up in that time period, you know, not everybody is able to shake that off.
Nope.
You know, while you may be able to adapt to that equality out there in the world, in your house, you may be thinking something different. And it wasn't right what he said. I don't condone what he said.
No.
I still think he should have been better and more contrite. At you know, when he supposedly apologized for what he said, you know, but it's like track records. People go, oh, Michael Jackson was accused of being a child molester. But if he was a child molester, wouldn't kids in his family that he spent the same amount of time about have made accusations with other kids that
you would think
was
so.
around?
You would think so.
Yeah, right.
No.
That's what child molesters do. They usually start close to home and then branch out. Michael Jackson never had any one of his nieces, nephews, or any one of them ever accused him of that.
No.
So that's and people go, well, you know, because I was raised by somebody in law enforcement that taught me to think like law enforcement. He groomed me to go into law enforcement, and I chose not to. So when I look at things like that, I go, but yeah, usually they don't. Now, it's not saying that all of them do. Some will never touch a family member, but they'll touch somebody else's kid. Those are rare. Most of the time, it starts with the person closest to you. The first thing
it's very rare.
Are the things you see every day. Well, if you have kids that you see every day, they're going to be the first ones you touch.
Yep.
You know, so if he was around the nieces and nephews and never touched them, why would he touch these kids?
Yeah.
So it just didn't fit the pattern.
I never bought in. I never bought into the whole Michael Jackson was a molester thing. I never did. Was Michael Jackson a strange guy? Well, I'd be a little bit strange too if I was raised in that type of family with Joe Jackson being so dominant and all that other BS.
But he was strange to us on the outside. Who didn't get to know Michael Jackson.
We didn't. That's right.
Because there's a lot of people close to him that tell you he's a different person than what we saw.
Elizabeth Taylor said he was such a sweet guy, and all this. Diana Ross says the same thing. He was so sweet and all that. Okay, that's great then. That's who Michael Jackson was. That's how he should be remembered. Right?
What I remember about Michael Jackson is a lot of different things, but when you talk about people saying things about him, or the one that hit me closest to understanding Michael Jackson was Elton John.
Yeah,
Elton John spoke glowingly about Michael Jackson. He goes, it was a shame how he ended up. And people said, what do you mean? So because he became so enamored with childhood, the childhood he never had, he started reverting back to childhood and how he behaved. He started acting more like a kid.
Even one of his big early hits was Ben. That's nothing but a child's like imagination.
Yes.
You know, but again, Terry Bollea unfortunately has left our world. It's a sad day for those fans of Hulk Hogan and the Terry Bollea family. His wife Sky, daughter Brooke, his son Nick, and all that other jazz. It really is just a sad day for the Bollea family. It
is. You know, and condolences to his family, condolences to a lot of his friends that he's had in the business in and out. I couldn't believe. I thought he didn't hang out with him anymore until I saw him in his restaurant with him. That he still hangs out with Brian Knobs. I know Brian Knobs is feeling this.
So his very first match was against B. Brian Blair of the Killer Bees.
Yes.
Just so that everybody understands how far back that guy goes. 1980, 77, I think. So
I remember B. Brian Blair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jumping Jim Brunzell and B. Brian Blair, the Honeybees.
Wasn't Brunzell Canadian too?
No, Brunzell was a Minnesota guy.
A Minnesota guy, okay.
Yeah.
I knew he was up close to that border, so one of those links areas.
Yeah. Well, he was another one of those Vern Gagne students
gotcha.
that they had up there. But anyhow, Mr. Jeff, it's been a pleasure.
Yes.
And
yes, Greg, it's been great being on with you again. We got one more thing we got to put together before the fall starts.
Yes, we do. And we'll discuss that in a couple of minutes. But again, this is the final word for tonight. Again, our condolences to the Bollea family. And everybody, you all take care.